I have a phenomenal life. I have a phenomenal wife. I have phenomenal children. We, just like anybody, have our ups and downs, but I love my life and what we have done over the last 5 years. And this is kind of just the starting point
Yeah.
for us. And now I'm really ready to get everybody else on the boat and saying, okay, here's where we're going. How do we get your life to where you want it to be? Because what I want isn't what they want,
Yeah.
and what they want isn't what the next person wants. How do we make your life successful?
This is the Wealthy Contractor Podcast, brought to you by G4 Marketing. Interviews with today's top home improvement entrepreneurs about marketing, sales, money, mindset, and lifestyle. Now, here's your host, Brian Kaskavalcian.
So what's happening? How are you?
I'm good. Living the dream, Brian.
Living the dream.
Really living the dream.
What does that mean?
For me, it's doing what I want when I want with who I want. It's loving working every day, or loving what I do to make money, and not having to be tied to it every single day is awesome. So it's been great.
Good. So let's tell everybody, by the way, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Contractor Podcast. I've got here with me friend, client, Wealthy Contractor Mastermind member, Jason Herbert Roofing, out of somewhere in Michigan. Tell everybody, somewhere away from Detroit. Tell everybody, because this is the first time you've been here, which is awesome. Welcome. Thanks for being here. You have a great story, and we'll get into some of the details, but why don't you give everybody kind of the 2-minute version of your story?
We're located in Saginaw, Michigan.
Saginaw.
Which is a couple of hours north of Detroit, kind of a mid-market. But I am a second generation owner here at Herbert Roofing. My dad started the business in 1973. And then in 2008, my dad was always a planner. So he knew, when he wanted to be done. And that was about 8 years later. So in 2008, myself and business partner Jake bought the business from him, or started buying the business, and was a very smooth transition buying the business from him. As far as the financial part went, the making our putting our ideas into the company, and kind of changing the culture and changing the way that we did things, that was a little tough on my dad. But then in 2017, Jake unfortunately passed away suddenly. So from 2017 on, it was just myself owning it. Thankfully, I have great people who have stepped up from then to really help us accelerate and grow the business. But from 2018 now, it's I'm the sole owner of the company and continuing to grow.
So I first met, my first interaction with Herbert Roofing was actually with Jake and with Brad, who today is your kind of right-hand guy, integrator, the guy who basically, I guess, runs the company. So you can go and be the owner, the visionary, and you can go have a whole lot of fun. Which you've earned, my friend, because I know your road was not an easy one. Jake was a cool dude. I liked Jake a lot. Brad, I met them in 2015. I remember that because they came to that Aries mastermind thing that me and Ari did. And they were just like, they couldn't believe Ari's operation. And they took I think a lot of good stuff home. And then I think I met you after Jake had already, I think after Jake passed, I think Brad reached out to me and you kind of got into our world. So you have done, so let's talk about what was the business like in 2018, because today it's very, very different. But let's just kind of give an overview, what kind of volume were you guys doing? What were you doing in the business? Just give us an overview of the business then.
In 2018, when Jake passed away at the end of 17, and when he passed away, it was just like, whoa, okay. Now everybody here is counting on me to move forward. And the beginning of 2018, I think we had done 2.5, maybe 3 million that year. Jake was a phenomenal partner, but he loved to just kind of keep his hands on things, always. His big saying was, got to keep the plate spinning, which, looking back now, kind of really stifled our growth. But at that point, that's kind of what he had to do, because he had some limitations, that he just couldn't do some of the things that he used to be able to do due to, some illnesses that he had. And he really thrived on keeping the plate spinning, once he passed away, Brad, I remember going to his house the day that Jake passed away, the morning of, and his wife kind of looked at me. It was a Sunday morning. They always go to church on Sunday. Like, you're not supposed to be here now, so they kind of knew. And I kind of let him know what had happened that day. And like that day, Brad just kind of jumped in and said, I don't know what you need. I don't know how you need it. I've got an idea because I've seen it, so he just jumped in and started doing it. At that point, I was more of a salesman / sales manager. I was still involved in sales a little bit, kind of oversaw the sales department of about 3 others. Brad was one of them. And Jake always overseen the operations. He loved the guys, so he loved being with he always called them the misfits, that he said, that's who I am. That's, who I want to be with. So it was a great working relationship, I couldn't have had a better business partner. But that day, Brad just kind of jumped in and said, hey, what do you need? This is a person that has never, ever asked for a raise, never, ever asked, what are you going to do for me? Never, ever asked, how are you going to do it? It was just always about, what do you want? What's your vision? Let's go from there. And not
By the
long
way,
after that, go ahead.
And by the way, those people are not easy to come by. We have one of those too. Her name is Yanni. And you describe Brad, you describe Yanni. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because they're both just fantastic integrators using EOS language. And I know that eventually became important. Sorry to cut you off. Addie told me the other day I got to stop doing that. So I'm sorry I did it. Keep going.
We love Addie.
Yeah.
We love her.
I'm listening, Addie. I'm trying.
but no, he just asked, what do you need? And at that point, he kind of took over the production side of things, because that's what Jake did. The time of the year was, if there ever has to be, there's never an ideal time, but it was just coming into the winter, and here in Michigan, things greatly slow down in the winter time. So it kind of allowed us to wrap our heads around things a little bit and get ready for the year to come. And Brad just kind of jumped in, I never had the conversation with him like, hey, this is what I need you to do at this point. He just kind of knew, he knew. Not long after that, we had met you. Brad said to me, listen, I'd heard your name being thrown around our office a couple of times, and Jake always tell him, Brian tells me I need to quit doing this, and Brad's like, yeah, you should have heard what Brian told Jake this time. It was, and you always had talked to him about getting out of the business and spending more time working on the business, and Brad kind of knew that was the direction he'd love to steer this company if he could. So he says, hey, listen, I got to introduce you to Brian. You got to meet Brian. You got to meet Brian. You got to meet Brian. So I think it was, what'd you say, 2019 when we had finally officially met. And, we talked about EOS at that time, and, what vision I wanted for the company. Where did I see the company going? And at that point, it's all stuff that I never thought about. Never thought about where I saw the company going. I know that this is just what my dad had done forever, and we were thankfully being, a little more successful than my dad was at it, but I never actually looked at a vision of what I wanted the company to look like. So after that, I think not long after that, we attended our first Accelerate, and really talked about profit of the business and where we saw ourselves in 5 years and in 10 years, and talked about the process of EOS and what that had done for other companies. So we after Brad and I had talked for a little while, we decided to find ourselves an EOS implementer, and it has changed our lives from there.
Yeah. One of the things that I know was a big change for you, and when people get this, it's like, wow, it's like everything changes, is you went to really starting to think about a business that works for you rather than a business that you have to work for. Because I remember one of our first conversations was all about the winter and what would happen in the winter. And I don't want to rehash the whole thing, but basically you would shut down for the winter and make everybody go claim unemployment. And I just thought that, wow, that there's got to be a better way of doing that. And, one of the things that profitability helps solve is it would be that problem. And, to your credit, it took you a little bit, but not like some people where it would take 10 years. I mean, within a year or two, you were like, yeah, you know what? That does make sense. We got to make more money. And you really started to put the pieces in place to make that happen. Let's fast forward, and then we'll fill in some of the gaps. So you came to Accelerate, which I want to ask you about, because Accelerate is coming up. This will air, I think, in November. Accelerate will be in February. Towards the end, I'd like you to tell people a little bit more about Accelerate. It's better you tell them than I do, but because I think everybody should be there. All the owners should be there. But let's talk a little bit about where you are right now in the business, just 3 years later. What do you do in the business now?
I'm still kind of finding my way a little bit. I remember when we first started EOS, I called you and I said, Brian, what the hell do I do? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Now, I said, I'm in this visionary role, which is what I love to do. I love the 10,000 foot view, the 20,000 foot view of the company. I struggle with the day to day, so I'm where I need to be. But like, what do I do? And I remember you telling me, it's kind of nice, isn't it, to not have to worry about the day to day and know that there's someone that you can trust. He said, but now your job is to go build your dream and see your dream, of what you want the company to be. That first meeting that we had, EOS meeting with our with Ryan Henry is our implementer's name. The first meeting that we had was like mind blowing. because it really forced us as a team to look into what do we want the future of this company to look like. Not only the future of the company, but what they wanted their futures to look like. And it was really eye-opening. And we said at that point, that our 10-year goal was $89 million. So our goal at that point, it seemed huge. We wanted it to be our BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. What is our C goal that it just looks like it's the hardest thing to hit. And that was at $89 million at that point. There was some math behind it that I had. And, as a team, that's what we committed to, and we put our 1-year goal together, and then we put our 3-year goal together, and our 10 years out, and how many businesses or how many different locations we wanted to have around the state of Michigan. And we're still on track for that today. We just had our quarterly meeting the other day, and it's exciting. We are in the beginning stages of an acquisition of another company that is still going to, my accountant says, has to happen this year for me. So we're in the beginning stages of acquiring a company in our northern market that is going to continue us on that path to the $89 million in 10 years that we wanted to get to. So it's exciting.
Yeah, so it's always interesting about that conversation that you and I had. It's funny. It's like, okay, Brian, basically now I'm the visionary, and all the jobs I used to have, they took them away from me. Because like you and me are very similar in that we make messes. When we get involved in something, we tend to upset people because they have a plan and they're running with the plan, and we say, well, but wait, what about this? And well, wait, what about that? So our job is to think, to create the vision, sell the vision, get everybody bought into the vision. And then part of it too is surrounding ourselves with really good people, really strong people, because there's no way you could have done what you've done in such a short period of time without the good people around you, but then putting the structure in place. And, we talk about EOS, entrepreneurial operating system. It's great, but there are other systems out there. As long as you have a system that you're working towards, that's great. But me and Jason, we happen to buy into EOS, and it's really changed both of our lives. And so your job becomes thinking, planning, really keeping your eye on the finances of the business, making sure that the business is hitting the numbers it's supposed to hit. And then it's really all about the people, because to get to your $89 million goal, you're going to need a lot of people. You have a lot of the processes are in place, the systems are in place, and you've got the people to do the level of business that you've got now. But in order to get to whatever that next level is, yours just happens to be, the big goal of 89 million. But if somebody's got a goal of 4 million, it's the same thing. You just got to surround yourself with the right people that are going to help you get there. What are some of the things that, along the way, what were some of the tough things that the business had to overcome you've essentially doubled the business in 3 years ish?
Yeah, this year we'll be right about 8.5 million.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
year.
You've like almost quadrupled, like 3 times the business. The profitability is like probably
it'll be
7 or
13, 14%.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah, which is amazing.
We're on our way to 15. That's the goal.
Yeah, you're a point away. We'll have to look at your numbers and see where that point is. It's that pesky point or two. We'll find it and you can fix it for next year. but it's a good place to be in. But what were some of the things that you guys had to do in order to get from, where you were, and you were making okay money, but you weren't making 13, 14 points.
One thing I think the biggest thing that I can attribute to, just making that shift is my mindset. You cannot have the same mindset at 10 million as you did at 3 million. I'm not going to be able to have the same mindset at 20 million that I did at 10. I have to continue to keep growing as a person and as a visionary, and continue to educate myself. I am not a college graduate. I didn't go spend 4 years in college. I went to high school and then worked for the family business. So most of the stuff that I've done, I've taught myself. And had to learn. So I have to continue to grow my mindset. And unfortunately, because this is really the hardest part for me, I love my people. And I also know that the people that got us here are probably not the people that are going to get us there. That's not to say that there's not a seat for them, but as an $89 million company, we have to do things differently than what we did as a $10 million company, and thank goodness I don't hire people, I don't fire people, because I genuinely love the people that I work with every single day. And we've had some changes over the years. And I'll tell you, there is, other than Brad and myself, nobody here that worked at that $3 million company anymore, unfortunately, because they had $3 million visions. We don't have a $3 million vision, and the leadership team does not have a $3 million vision. So we have to continue to grow, not only, as a leadership team and as people, but also as a company.
Let's pause here for a quick break. Are you ready to accelerate your business success in 2023? If you answered yes, then you'll want to listen closely to this special invitation, because we're calling all home improvement and home service business owners to join us at Accelerate Live 2023, happening in beautiful sunny Florida on February 7th and 8th. This is the only home improvement event guaranteed to be profitable for you on day one. To get more information, please go to www.accelerateevent.com. Discounted pricing is available right now. So if you want to save big, go to www.accelerateevent.com, and for additional savings, enter coupon code WEALTHY23 at checkout. Remember, this event is 100% guaranteed. If you don't feel it was profitable enough for you on day one, not only will we refund you your ticket money, but we will also give you $1,000 back to cover for your time and your travel. So don't delay. Go to www.accelerateevent.com and secure your ticket today. Now back to this week's episode.
So mindset, we talk a lot about mindset here on the podcast. We talk about it at Accelerate. We talk about it in our mastermind meetings, and we talk about it basically whenever we get together. And I think it really is a piece that outside of here, it's not talked a lot about. And I think it's becoming more. I think people are starting to talk about it a little bit more. And it's interesting that you said that the $3 million, who you are at 3 million is not who you have to be at 10. Who you are at 10 is not who you have to be at 20, and on and on. And so what are some of the things that you've had to do in order to develop the mindset? Because, and I'm sorry, let me just say something. It's people are listening to this. you know, and again, we talk a lot about this at Accelerate, but if you're making 150 or $200,000, you make good money. But if you want a $5 million business, let's say, I even tried to take like a candy or something. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So if you're used to making, my God, what is going on?
As long as you don't need CPR, we'll be good. You're in Miami. I didn't know you had long sleeve shirts either. People in Miami have long sleeve shirts.
Well, this morning, when I got up, it was like 60 something, and I thought, you know, let me bust out a long sleeve shirt, but it's hot right now.
I hope it gets.
I gotta close this. Oh, it's gonna be beautiful when you guys are here.
I hope so. We're coming in a few days early too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think we'll be in Friday.
Oh, okay. Let me know. Text me and let me know.
Till Wednesday, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Friday.
We're gonna be around that weekend. We were gonna be out, but we're gonna be around that weekend.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So back to mindset. So, you know, this is one of the things that I really try and work with people on when we have private meetings or even in the mastermind group. It's like, if you're used to making one level of income, let's say $150,000, $200,000 a year, which is good money, really good money. But then you want a $5 million business. Well, my thing is always, well, why do you want a $5 million business? And unless you tell me that I want a $5 million business because it's going to net me $750,000 to $1 million, and because of that, I can do this and this and this and this and this, most every other reason is a dumb reason. And so you really got to be focused on the money. And so, how do you go from making a couple $100,000 to now all of a sudden, well, I'm going to make 750,000? People think that, a lot of people think, well, it's just going to happen. No, it's not just going to happen, because if your mindset is stuck at 200, you could do 5 million, but guess how much you're still going to make? You're going to make 200. That's why God, what's the number? Like 40+% of people in this industry make a pre-tax net profit of 3% or less, which is ridiculous. It's too much work. It's too much risk. So with that little bit of a setup, how did you go from one mindset of here's where we're at financially, and you were doing good, but now you're at a whole nother level? What kind of work do you do on yourself?
I've been involved in for the last 3 to 4 years with a guy, Sean Foyer. And I do a program with him called Thinking into Results, and which has absolutely changed the way that I look at not only my business, I look at my family, I look at money, money as a vehicle to get me and my family to where we got to go. And I'm really starting to focus a lot more on my people. I want to figure out how we get my people to where they want to be in their life, because like I said, that's just so important to me. But I spent a lot of time working with Sean and going through this course, Thinking into Results. I keep just kind of doing it over and over again. I think I'm probably on my 4th or 5th round of Thinking into Results, but we work on it weekly. I've had and he's more or less my coach. I've had to hire coaches over the years to not only change my mindset. We were talking before we started today about the coach that I just hired for my health and wellness, to hold me accountable. And as business owners, a lot of times we're not used to being held accountable.
Right.
And I've found that that's what I need. I need somebody to every single day hold me accountable, because my mind it's as a visionary kind of all over. All I do is think all day long. So I have to, every now and again, I have to sit down, focus myself, and just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I've got to, focus on the business, or I've got to focus on my health and wellness, or I have to focus on, where our family is going, the direction that our family is. So it's working with Sean has been huge, huge for me.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up your people. One of the most annoying things that I hear when I ask people, like, what do you want? Where do you see the business going? And they start to talk about their people. Well, I want to employ all these people, and I want to be I want to give them a great place to work, and blah, 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 and all of that. And then I ask them, all right, well, how's your family doing? How much money are you making? And they're like, well, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, don't you think that maybe you should establish a business that takes care of your family first, and then you could start to think about everybody else that's around you? Because how can you, it's like the whole mask thing with the airlines, right? What do they tell you to do? If there's a loss of cabin pressure, put your mask on first so that you don't pass out, and then go help the next person. And it's like, it's the same kind of thing. Like, so if you didn't do all of this work on yourself and work on what you bring home and how your family lives, how could you possibly take care of other people?
Right. And that's exactly what we've had to do over the last 2 to 3 years. It had to be about me first.
Yeah.
If I don't know where I'm going, with my mindset, or where the business is going, how can I lead somebody else to what they want?
Yeah.
All of our estimators, and our sales manager, everybody has now gone through the course with Sean, because after I went through it a couple of different times, the value in your mindset, not only as a business owner, but for our salespeople, and for my production manager, that's what gets you to the next level.
Yeah.
It's the outside of the box thinking, but I couldn't take them there without me having already been there. And my life, I have a phenomenal life. I have a phenomenal wife. I have phenomenal children. We, just like anybody, have our ups and downs, but I love my life and what we have done over the last 5 years. And this is kind of just the starting point.
Yeah.
For us. And now I'm really ready to get everybody else on the boat and saying, okay, here's where we're going. How do we get your life to where you want it to be? Because what I want isn't what they want. And what they want isn't what the next person wants. How do we make your life successful?
Yeah. It's funny. I forgot if it was a couple years ago at Accelerate. You and I had a conversation about the car you wanted to buy. And it was such a great, it was just a really great conversation. In fact, when you and Hala came and visited, and we sat down and we spent some time together, I think we talked a little bit about planning for the business, and you had actually rented one of those cars, and we went to dinner, and you guys were just, you guys were having a blast. And what ended up happening, tell everybody what the car was, and then what kind of happened afterwards, I think is kind of funny. I don't know, maybe the listeners won't find it as entertaining as I did, but I thought it was a really good, I thought it was a really good example of what happens when you can have what you want. But
one thing that you have always told me is, like, if you, and I've heard you say it also to other people, like, if you want the lifestyle, go and have it for a little bit. Go rent it, go, if you want that fancy car, go rent that fancy car. If you want that fancy boat, go out on that fancy boat, and rent it and see if that's what you want. So we came to Miami, and in Saginaw, Michigan, there's nowhere that I'm going to rent a Lamborghini Huracan. That was my car that I wanted. And so we came to Miami. There's actually a bunch of places that you can rent.
Bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hale and I decided that we were going to rent this Huracan. And we did. And it took me about 2 to 3 minutes to figure out how to get into this thing. I'm a bigger guy, I'm a little stockier in stature. So
I have video of it. I have video of it, by the way.
To get into this car was one of the most pain in the ass, difficult things that I probably did that weekend, trying to get in and out of this car. It was okay when I sat in it, but I found out real quick that Lamborghini Huracans were not for bigger people. My wife looked phenomenal in this thing.
She did.
But I decided at that point that, okay, maybe the Lamborghini wasn't what I wanted. So because I kind of scratched that itch, it allowed me to start focusing on other things, and the boat that we wanted, so we switched from the Lamborghini Huracan to the 45-foot Sea Ray, and have our motor coach, because we love to travel. We boat in the winter or in the summertime here in Michigan, Michigan's the best place in the summer, but we travel a lot in our coach. And through EOS and having great people here, I've also I don't even think we've talked about this yet, but I now just finishing up my pilot's license.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Did we? Okay.
About it.
And here within the next 5 days, I'll have purchased my first airplane.
Oh shit! Cool.
Yeah. So I've got a purchase agreement on that.
From the time that you started to think about the Huracan, and so we had actually talked about how you not paying for it either. How are you going to get it without necessarily paying for it? Because it's like a $300,000 or $400,000 car. It's not the best place to put your money, and you were able to pretty quickly. I mean, from the time that you had I want this car, to the time that you came to Miami, to the time that you could afford it, was like a really short amount of time. I mean, it was like, I don't know, it was months. It wasn't even years. It was like months, because you became so focused on it. But you also figured out, well, how do I get it without me paying for it? And you basically had, you're a real estate investor, so you know how to buy houses, and you were going to buy houses, and the houses were going to pay for the car and all of that. So you were really starting to think too about not just buying stuff, but also how do I get the stuff, but also build wealth at the same time.
That's it. And our rental properties have really allowed us to build wealth, and not only in the rental income that they produce, but in the appreciation that just naturally happens. This coming up, what they call the bubble maybe bursting, it doesn't really bother me. I'm not looking to sell them, but they pay for my boat now. The rentals pay for my boat. The rentals pay for my motor coach. They also,
by the way, for those of you that don't know what a motor coach is, I did not know what a motor coach is. It's a big ass RV is what it is, and it's cool as hell. Go on.
Yeah, and my airplane that I'm buying is actually going to be rented by the school there. So the flight school that I was a part of, they needed another airplane, and I said, why don't I just buy an airplane? You can rent it from me. So they're going to rent the airplane from me. They're going to, which will pay for all the maintenance, all the annuals, and will actually net me about a 50% return on my investment.
Wow.
So
cool.
The stuff like that I get, I try to figure out who's going to pay for them, because I'm not going to pay for them.
Right.
Just like the stuff that we do here at the business. I'm not paying for these trucks, my customers are paying for these trucks. I'm not paying for the health insurance, my customers are paying for that.
Yeah.
So it's been really important to me, in my life when I'm building wealth, to figure out who's going to pay for everything.
Yeah.
And I would just talk with somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact. We were talking about mindset, and I told him, I said, I have to be very careful with my mindset now, with all the work that I've done, because like you said, when I get focused on something, it doesn't take me very long to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's where Hayla comes in. She has to pump my brakes every now and again.
Yeah.
But
Well, but I think, what happens is your confidence muscle grows. And that was an area, I think I've been pretty forthcoming about that. That was a huge thing for me. Was I was a pretty low confidence guy. I didn't look like it from the outside, but as I became more successful, my confidence started to grow as I was able to start to build wealth and start to make things happen the way I wanted them to happen, not just letting them happen to me. The way I wanted them to happen, your confidence grows, and you don't become a jerk about it. You stay pretty humble. You don't brag about, oh, I have this and I have that, and look at this and look at that. You're cool about it. The other thing, as you were talking, so I mentioned this recently at an event. I think I did it at Top 500, but I also did it at Accelerate in February. Was there's two main ways you get rich from this business, and one way is the way you're doing it. Is let's make sure that the business is super profitable, so I could take care of my people, so I can put in the right processes and systems, so I can create a business that's going to be recession resistant. But then also, I'm taking the money out of the business, and then I'm saying, okay, I got a pile of cash. How do I invest this money? So some of that investment might go back into the business because maybe it needs cash for an acquisition, or it needs cash for new people, or whatever it may be. But it's an investment that you're making in the business. And then you're also investing outside of the business. So you happen to know about rental houses. I don't. So I go into, these syndicate groups, and I buy real estate that way. And I'm involved in a number of those things, but you know how to do it. So you go buy rental houses. And that is every day, every month, every quarter, every year, that those are not only are they appreciating in value, but you've got your tenants that are paying down your mortgage, which eventually, you can go and refinance at some point, go buy more stuff, or just take the cash and pay for your lifestyle. You get to a point where you have permanent income, where you get to a point where, and you're going to be pretty young, where it's like you got more money coming in from your investments than you spend. And that's one of the ways you get rich. The other way of getting rich is what everybody, it seems like, I shouldn't say that, but I was at this event last week, and it just seemed like everybody there is like, oh my God, I want one of these private equity companies to come and write me a giant check for my business. Well, I'm sorry, but that's a less likely scenario to happen than what you're doing. I think your way is smarter. If it happens to be worth a whole bunch of money and somebody will write you a big check eventually, great. But I don't think you're in the market for that, because at this point it wouldn't be enough for you.
No, I who knows what 15, 20 years down the road can bring. I'm in my early 40s, so who knows what that can bring down the road. But right now, like, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love business. Even if somebody come and give me, 20 million for the company, what am I going to do?
Right.
So
they won't, by the way.
They won't.
You, but I know.
Yeah,
just for everybody listening, not for
thanks.
him, but for everybody listening, they're not going to. But,
no, I understand that, but I gotta have something to do. I love doing what I do every single day, and I love the business of business.
Yeah,
because
that's what you do now. You're in the business of business. You're not a fireman anymore like you used to be. And because you were the sales manager, you were going and selling, you had to figure out the finances. If there was a production problem, you had to deal with it. I mean, everything was coming to you. And then now it's like, no, I'm a businessman now.
Yeah, that's
Good place to be.
and it is, you know, and being able to, you know, be in the mastermind groups, you know, being able to come to the conferences and, you know, the big relationships, you know, that's what my job is. And if you have a great integrator like I have,
Yeah.
they will shield you from all of that.
Yep.
You know, there's things that I ask about and Brad's like, not for you to worry about.
Yep.
Got this. We got this. And you get a great team and you're integrated. They want to do their job, which just allows you to work on the business.
Yeah.
You know,
And great people like to be held accountable, and they like to win.
Mhm.
And when you surround yourself with people that are not afraid of being held accountable, in fact, they welcome it and they like to win, sky's the limit for you.
Mhm.
Sky's the limit.
Yep. And that's what I've got with this team. You know, Brad, I don't know if he loves it, but he definitely is willing to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And you know, there's times that we'll just laugh about it and go like, you know what, you're right. You're right. You
Yeah.
know, but because he loves to win,
Yeah.
and he is, you know, he's competitive, you know, he can always look back and say, you know what, yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. You know, and which has just made our relationship,
Yeah.
you know, the best that it's ever
Yeah.
been.
And he's one of the best people you'll ever meet in your entire life. By the way, I interviewed him. He's been on the podcast even before you.
He
As
does.
from
Yes.
the integrator's point of view. I forgot what episode number it was, but yeah, Brad's a great guy. But I've known him longer. That's why I had him first.
That's right. Some
Yeah.
people probably say he's better looking than I am too. But
Yeah, maybe. All right. So let's end with, so I got to end with a plug. I think you know, we've got Accelerate in February 7th and 8th with the bonus day on the 9th. We are having it in Fort Myers, Florida. Yes, Fort Myers is where the hurricane came through, but the hotel actually did not sustain any damage. They have been up and running, fully operational, restaurants, bars, everything has been fully operational. So by February, all should be good. The airport's operational too down there. So all is good. So if somebody is maybe on the fence about Accelerate, or they're not sure if it's going to be right for them as an owner, what would you say about attending Accelerate?
this will be our 4th year in a row. Accelerate is the conference that we will not miss. I even canceled a trip to Mexico last year to come to Accelerate. So Accelerate's a conference that we will not miss. If you at all have any aspirations of growing your business, moving forward in your life, in your mindset, with your family, with your income, it's the one conference that you have got to be at. And it's Florida in the wintertime. You know,
That always helps.
it does. And the people, though, the biggest difference is because we go to all types of industry conferences. The people that you have on stage, Brian, are real people. They're the people that are in the business. They're not just some guru that's up here to talk to you about, you know, financing or about, you know, how to grow your business quickly in you know 3 years. No, these are real people that have actually done it, that
Yeah.
have a roadmap. And the biggest thing, everybody is there to help the other person. I have not had one person at Accelerate that has not been willing to sit down with me for 10, 15 minutes and just talk about my business or what they can do to help me, whether it's been Scott Berman, whether it's been Brian Elias, you know, Charlie Glendale, you know, phenomenal. All of those guys that we see on your stage year after year, you know, John Inglis, will take the time to sit down with you, talk briefly about your business, and schedule a call later with you if it's
Yeah.
a little bit more of a deep dive that needs to be done. So in wholeheartedly, Brian, in my opinion, the best conference in the industry.
Cool. Well, so if anybody's interested in learning more, by the way, you didn't know this, but I'm probably going to put you to work at Accelerate. We'll talk more about that another time, but I'm probably going to put you to work there. But let's see. Oh, go to accelerateevent.com, accelerateevent.com, and you can purchase tickets there. Whatever the ticket price is, I think it's worth the 10 times the price of admission. In fact, if for whatever reason you don't think it was valuable for you, there's no other event like this one that has a guarantee where not only will we give you all of your registration money back, we'll give you $1,000 as just to cover your time and your travel. But interestingly enough, we've never had anybody take us up on it in all of the years that we've been doing it. But hey, it's still there. It's always available if somebody, feels the need. Okay, so let's wrap up with knowing what you know today. Knowing what you know today, if you think back 3-5 years, is there anything that you would have done different?
I would have started hanging out a long time ago with people that are where I want to be. Back again to the people that got you here will not get you there. So I would have started attending these industry events long time ago. I would have done EOS a long time ago. I would have gotten out of the day-to-day of my business a long time ago. So you gotta invest that time in yourself. You gotta invest that time in your business before you can invest that time in others.
Cool. So with that, thank you, Jason. I'll see you in a couple of weeks for our mastermind meeting. But to everybody listening, hope this was a valuable episode. I think this is another one where you want to go back and listen to again. Look, how do I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want it to come off wrong, but there's nothing business wise that is extraordinary about Jason. Sorry, as a person, you're extraordinary, but in the business, there's nothing necessarily that's extraordinary or lucky, or you bought a business from your family. You weren't handed anything. You've built up everything yourself, and you said it yourself. You didn't go to college. You've learned everything on your own, which I believe, in a lot of cases for most people is a much better education than going to college. But you did it. John Inglis did it. You mentioned Scott Berman. He did it. Brian Elias. He did it. I mean, these are people that we all started from basically nothing. And we just did a few certain things. We got the fundamentals right. And, things work out. And so thank you. And I hope your story is encouraging. It's always been inspiring to me what you've been able to do. And I wish you nothing but continued success. And same thing for all of you that are listening. So with that, Brian Kaskavalcian, this is the Wealthy Contractor podcast. Oh no, wait, let me do that again. Brian Kaskavalcian with G4 Marketing, and this is the Wealthy Contractor podcast. So until next time. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Wealthy Contractor podcast. Let me ask you, did it help you look at your business in a different way? Did it spark an idea or ideas that you hadn't thought of before? Do you have a list of action items that you can take and implement into your business or your life today? I really hope so. If it did, I'd like to ask you a favor. Would you leave a 5-star review of the podcast? By doing so, you'll help other contractors find the podcast more easily so that we can help them achieve more success, wealth, and freedom. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to the Wealthy Contractor podcast so you get access to the latest episodes as soon as they're available. We're always striving to provide you with great content so you don't want to miss what's coming up. In fact, if you haven't already, make sure you go to thewealthycontractor.com and get your free copy of my latest book, The 7 Secrets to Becoming a Wealthy Contractor. Just pay shipping and handling, and I'll take care of the cost of the book. And finally, a big thanks to G4 Marketing for sponsoring the Wealthy Contractor podcast. For over 12 years now, G4 Marketing has been the secret back office relationship marketing team for hundreds of home improvement and home service businesses just like yours. You get the customer, and our proven system turns that customer into 5-star reviews and profitable repeat and referral business. If your home improvement or home services company completes at least 10 jobs per month, they have a solution that will work for you. To find out more, sign up for your free, no obligation, 10-minute discovery call at www.gfourmarketing.com/strategy. That's GFOUR marketing.com/strategy. Set your discovery call up today, and they'll help you set your business up for long-term profits and success. So until next time, this is Brian Cascadalcio.